Somebody needs to study the rise and fall of Miss Charm because at this point, what is even going on with that pageant? Just a couple of days ago, Krishnah Gravidez, who was supposed to represent the Philippines at Miss Charm 2024, announced that she was withdrawing from the competition. And shortly after, it was announced that Krishnah was going to be joining Miss World Philippines. Can you blame the girl? Not really. I can't judge her. Because as a matter of fact, when you look at the history of Miss Charm as an organization and as a pageant, you can see a tremendous lack of consistency, which in the long term is really penalizing not only the candidates, but also the pageant fans. During this video, I would like to share with some of you guys my thoughts about what's going on with Miss Charm, the future of the organization, or the lack of, if anything, and also some of the challenges that I believe they are facing at the moment, which would explain all of the delays and the uncertainty when it comes to the next edition of the pageant. The very first time that I became aware of Miss Charm, it was actually in 2019 when Ashley Subihano was crowned as the very first Miss Charm Philippines. At the time, Ashley was a fresh face in pageantry. That was her very first national competition. And shortly after, because of the pandemic, we started receiving the news that the pageant was going to be postponed. There were going to be delays. And to be honest, at that particular time, nobody can really judge Miss Charm because, all of the organizations were going for it. Even big four pageants such as Miss International was postponing their editions. So what would you expect from a newborn organization who was just preparing to launch their very first edition of the pageant? We get it. Because of the many delays and the many postponements, Ashley Subihano ended pulling out of the competition and ultimately joined Miss World Philippines. Very similar fate to what is happening right now with Krishnah Gravidez. And I don't know for you, but at least for me as an outsider, as a pageant fan, as someone who covers pageantry and follows them, it kind of came as a surprise to see that Krishnah was pulling out of Miss Charm, because the last few couple of things that I heard about Krishnah is that she was very focused on her preparation, the trainings, and, just giving her very best, because the last thing that we heard is that Miss Charm is actually taking place this year. However, we keep on hearing dates around the month of March, which clearly didn't happen. Then I heard something about May, clearly didn't happen. Then I heard something about August. It's still uncertain, and we are getting there, and there's no announcement of final candidates, final dates, events, activities. It's not just a matter of announcing the pageant last minute, like the contestants need to adjust and the national organizations as well. I think that the withdrawal of a candidate such as Krishnah, not to patronize the Philippines, but in my opinion, Krishnah was one of the strongest delegates of this year's edition of Miss Charm. In terms of her beauty, her performance, her support, the visibility that she will be able to bring to the organization, and the fact that she checks all the boxes when it comes to what an international title holder should have, especially for such a young organization. In a way, I think that Krishnah was borderline overqualified for Charm. One of the reasons why Miss Charm has been able to gain popularity and support from outside sources and pageant fans, it's basically because they adapted this technique where they would appoint or get contestants who already competed nationally, who already have a name, a legacy. However, they didn't receive what they expected when they competed internationally. For example, a lot of girls who previously competed at Miss World or who competed at Miss Universe, even went to Miss International or Miss Earth, they didn't obtain the positioning that they were hoping for, or even some of them were considered to be front runners and crown contenders, but they ended up not anywhere near the crown. A lot of those girls were being considered, appointed, and sent to Miss Charm. This is one of the main reasons why last edition of Miss Charm was somewhat successful. Last year was technically the very first edition of Miss Charm, with a lot of people, talking about the pageant. And for it being the first edition, I thought there was so much hype around the competition that it just felt a little bit unnatural. But at the same time, they were delivering on the big names. They were promising a lot of things when it comes to the production. They were bringing guest judges. They even had like Natalie Glavova on their panel of judges. So you could tell that they were investing a lot, not just in the quality of the contestants, but they were also wanting to create partnerships, strategic partnerships with important figures within the pageant world. Although that edition of Miss Charm was not flawless, especially in terms of the production, there were a lot of different missteps and things that could have been done a lot better. Overall, it was a pretty solid edition for Miss Charm, I would say. And just to bring things a little closer to home, here in the Philippines, it was a pretty successful edition, considering that Annabelle McDonald, who was last year's representative for the country, ended up as a first runner-up. So leading up into the next edition with the next national title holder, you would believe that the second edition of Miss Charm would improve, that will deliver even more, that they will put really a lot of effort into it to make sure that there are no missteps, to improve from the first edition, and more precisely to make sure that they don't go to the old habits of delaying and postponing the pageant every single time. Especially now in 2024, where we can no longer use the pandemic as an excuse to delay the activities. Truthfully speaking, ever since Krishnah was crowned, I just feel like she has been focusing so much in the competition, and people don't really understand how hard it is for a queen to wait such a long time to compete. Because first of all, girl, this is the reality of pageantry. You have to maintain the physique, you have to maintain the image, you have to maintain the illusion, basically. While you're competing or waiting to compete for an international pageant, you also have to adapt a lot of different things in your life, because you have to be constantly involved in your community. Perhaps you cannot work as much as you should be working. There's a lot of expenses, most of the time coming even out of pocket. The wardrobe, the makeup artist, the hairstylist, the traveling, all of these things are not always covered by national organizations. And at the end of the day, it ends up taking a toll on the contestant. Especially when you consider that Krishnah brings a level of performance, hype, and just overall quality that will be appreciated in any other pageant system. This is, in my opinion, the reason why Krishnah decided to go to Miss World, because she is aware of what she brings to the table. And to be honest, if you are on that level, why go for a crown such as Charm when you could literally potentially win the crown for world? Like, it just makes sense. Another one of the reasons why I believe that Miss Charm is being delayed so much is because a couple of things have changed since their very first edition, and the most important one is the launch of Miss Cosmo, who is, I don't want to say a rival pageant, but it's definitely an international pageant that is also being organized and put together and staged in Vietnam, which is the same home country for Miss Charm. This brings, a level of competition, and at the same time, both pageants are fighting in a way for the visibility. Although I'm going to say, in my opinion, Miss Cosmo is doing so much better than Charm. Although they haven't even had their very first edition, Miss Cosmo has made it public already that they have over 60 international license holders, which already guarantee a candidate for their countries. When Miss Charm, they haven't even announced like 20 or 25 contestants just yet, and the competition is supposed to start anytime in the upcoming months. Just a little bit of background on Miss Cosmo. They were the former license holders of Miss Universe Vietnam. Once they lost the franchise, they decided to launch their own international pageants, which ended up being Miss Cosmo. And now there are rumors, which I haven't verified, so this is all allegedly. There are rumors that the same people who are organizing Miss Charm have acquired the license for Miss Universe Vietnam, which in my opinion is contradictory, because why would you want the license of a national pageant to send to Miss Universe, which is the biggest pageant in the world, when you are trying yourself to launch your own international pageant? If at least it's a situation like Miss Charm has it all together and they're delivering and they're doing great, and now they want to have like a sidekick, side business and have the franchise for Miss Universe Vietnam, go for it. But when you have been promising so much and under-delivering every single time, it has just been lackluster. I really cannot blame Krishnah for withdrawing from the competition. And I mean, honestly, I wouldn't be surprised to see a lot more girls going the same route and withdrawing from it, because it just doesn't make sense. Especially, Krishnah coming from the Philippines, it's a pageant country. I know that she must be spending a lot of time, effort, resources, to her preparation. But it is undisputable also that there is a lot of support for contestants here in the Philippines. Imagine smaller countries where there is no support and the girls still have to provide for themselves, trips, accommodation, makeup, wardrobe, and you don't even know when you're going to be competing. It is definitely a mess. We shall see what's going to happen, but as of right now, my prediction is that we are witnessing slowly and painfully the downfall of Miss Charm. I think that the pageant is kind of dead on arrival, and that it will just be overtaken by Miss Cosmo. I don't know, maybe the organization will pull something and, change the future of the organization or revamp it or get it together. But as of right now, things are looking down on Miss Charm. Now, I have a question for you because, of course, you want to make this an open conversation. Do you think that Krishnah, as a prototype of beauty, can do well in the Miss World Philippines pageant or perhaps even be sent out to Miss World? I think so, especially considering that Krishnah has the same team as Gwen Furniol, who is the current Miss World Philippines before she passes her crown. And at the same time, I wanted to ask, do you think that Miss Cosmo is going to grow exponentially as an organization? It could potentially rival with Miss Universe or even the likes of Miss Grand in terms of production, caliber of girls. I mean, already the Philippines has crowned a huge fan favorite to send to Miss Cosmo, Atiza Manalo. This is a huge deal. So let me know, how do you feel about Miss Cosmo even before the initial edition of the pageant? Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed this little conversation and rant about Miss Charm and Miss Cosmo and Krishnah and everyone and everything that is going on in the pageant world, drop a like on the video, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, share with a friend, and join the channel memberships if you want to support even further. Thank you for watching and see you on the next one.